Good evening, everybody. If you've been following along the previous tutorials, we went ahead and created a very simple character using a stick figure that we drew in Photoshop. Today we're going to do the UVs so we can go ahead and paint him, get him pretty. But we do want to do some basic animations with him. And if we look at the model, there's just not enough detail here to really make the animations work. So we're going to do a smooth pass on him. Let's go ahead and turn off the image planes. And I will make him visible, so go ahead and hit Material Attributes. And right now my character has Lambert 1, that's the default. I'm just going to go ahead and bring the transparency down. That way it's good and solid. And you can say I have Poly Mirror, that's like the last thing that I did on him. So I'm going to go up to Edit and Delete by Type, History. Go ahead and clear that out. And next I want to go up to make sure we're in modeling, and then go to mesh and come down to smooth. I'm going to do a smooth pass on him. You have a few options. You can do exponential or linear. Either one works pretty well, but I find that the exponential will cause a crash if you have internal geometry or things like non-manifold geometry or duplicate faces that are on top of each other. You'll have a problem. Linear, if you know that you have those issues, linear is very clean. It'll go ahead and do the smooth without dying. But this should be pretty clean. I'm going to go ahead and hit smooth, and there's the smooth pass on him. I'm only going to do one smooth. You can see my divisions here is set to 1. You can, of course, go higher. Of course, the higher you go, the more memory that this takes. If you go up too high, you'll just crash Maya. So, depends on your computer. I'm going to keep it at 1. Let's go ahead and click off. And there he is. You can see my poly smooth is over here. I'm going to go ahead and clear that from my history as well. So, Edit, Delete by Type, History. And now it is time to do some UVs. If we open up our UV panel, UV Editor, you can see this is not conducive for creating a character. I'm going to move this to the side here. If we wanted to paint on this, this would be complete nonsense. There's areas that are overlapping. It's just a mess. There are areas that are overlapping. There's areas that are bunched. There's not an equal amount of distribution. We can't identify, what's the head, what's the arm, what's a leg. So these UVs aren't very useful for us. So what we need to do is make sure our character is selected, make sure we're in object mode. We're going to go up to UV. And the first thing I want to do is go down to planar and then hit the options. Now you could do this all in one pass or whatever you like, but so that you kind of learn how this works, we are going to go ahead and choose a projection from the front. So down here, we have our little compass, and you can see my character is lined up facing, if I put the move tool on, you can see my character is facing in the Z direction. That's our compass there. So I'm going to choose Z, and then I'll hit apply. You can see it takes a UV projection, go ahead and close that, of the character from the front. This is a little bit nicer. I'm going to hit this little darker panel right here so you can see it. Now, this is cleaner, but we do have overlapping UVs. And to show you that, if I choose the front of the arm, you can see it's selected. But if I go and choose the back of the arm, it is also selected because we have the front half of the character on top of the back half of the character. And we don't want that. We don't ever want to have UVs overlapping. So let's go ahead and divide this up into appropriate subshells. So this one big guy here is one UV shell. If we were to cut the head and the arms and the torso into their own little groups, those would be called subshells. What I want to do is I want to go to edge mode, so I'm going to go ahead and right click and go to edge. I actually can't use the hotkey, but the hotkey is F10. The hotkeys with the recording software actually shut my software off, so I got to be careful with that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the head off. The neck seems to end right here, so let's go ahead and double click that line. And if you did this in all quads, you should get a nice clean selection all the way around. If you have triangles or n-gons, that will not go all the way around, and you'll have to cut it manually. Once you have it selected, go up to the top of our UV editor here, polygons. I'm going to come down, I'm going to hit cut UV edges. I'm going to right click, go to UV selection, and then double click to take the selection of the head, and you can see the head is all by its lonesome. Now this isn't ready to do anything with because we also have to unfold it. When you unfold the head of your character, typically we start from the top of the head and we go down to the back of the neck in one clean edge loop. So we're going to go ahead and grab the edge mode. I'm going to start from about here. And this is really sort of an artistic choice, but if we split here and say this was an actual character, we wouldn't want to split the forehead because you'd see that split on the texture. But where hair would be, we're not going to actually see the line, so I'm going to go ahead and just select down all the way through the back of the neck here. Oops. Make sure I don't have anything extra. Then we'll go ahead and cut UV edges again. Go to UV selection. Double click on your head. And then we will unfold it. So go down to unfold. And there we go. Now if you had a situation like I just had where everything kind of moved, that means you have pack selected. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Z. I'm going to go up to polygons. I'm going to come down to where it says unfold, hit the options box. And I'm just going to uncheck the pack button. What this will do is it'll allow the UV to unfold in place rather than repacking everything. And there we go. We have the head there. Go ahead and straighten it out just a little bit. There we go. So there's the head. Presumably the face will be right in here, and then your ears and such will be over here. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for our arms, legs, and torso. Let's go into edge mode. And I'm going to select the edges that go around the arm. Do it on both sides. Make sure that you're even on both sides. And if you're not sure how I'm selecting multiple, I'm just selecting one edge and then holding shift, double click on the one next to it, and it'll grab the line. There it is. I'm going to also do that on the legs here. So select this one, hold shift, double click. I'll do that on this side. It should get all the way to his butt, and then I need to go down the middle. Okay. So we have the arms and the legs selected. And one more thing we have to do on the arms and legs before we do any cutting is don't forget to cut the seam in the arm here. Now I'm going to show you why you want to do that in just a second. So let's go ahead and cut this. So polygons, cut UV edges, UV selection, go ahead and separate the arm. I'm going to do this arm so you can see. So I'm going to select it and then polygons, do an unfold. And you can see what happens is it tries to unfold the arm, kind of like unfolding a sock. It's just a tube with a closed end, and it doesn't give us a really good UV unfold. It kind of looks like a spider web. To get a good split, we actually need to split part of the arm, and generally we do the underside of the arm because we won't see the seam there. So we go to edges, and we will select the arm up along the seam there. I'm stopping right at the split of the arm, about where the hand would be. Let's make sure I have the same amount on both sides. I do. Okay. And I will do the legs as well. Okay. Polygons, cut UV edges. And I will select all of these pieces. And then I'll do an unfold. And we should get our arms unfolded, legs unfolded. And before we can call it a day, we want to make sure that there are no bunching. So here you can see, as this is coming up, it's got this little star here. This isn't too bad. But if you have any areas where it's still kind of curled on top of itself or bunched up too much, then you'd want to split this and then unfold again. But these are looking pretty decent. So the last thing we should do is this torso piece here. Now if I try to unfold this, we're going to get this, which again is kind of like that unfolded sock sort of deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this, and this is really an artistic choice. You can split it either in the back, kind of like we did the head. You can split the back down here, or you can split it under the arm, and then on the shoulders, and you'll get two pieces for front and back. Now, depending on what you're doing, or it's really just an artistic choice where you want the seam to go, that's up to you. I generally prefer to split under the arms. But for this particular guy, I'm actually going to put the seam on the back, because I'm going to put him in sort of like a spacesuit. I'm going to have a zipper running down the back. So this would be a great place to put the seam. And since I know that going in what the texture is going to be like, I can kind of predict where I'm going to put things. So I'm going to go ahead and unzip the back of the dude here. You can see I'm actually grabbing part of the head. That's not what I want, so I'm going to come down to the next part. There we go. And I'll go all the way down to the end of the torso there. Polygons, cut UV edges, go to UV selection, double click, and then we will unfold once more. So now I have all the pieces of my character unfolded. We want to start arranging them in our 0 to 1 space. That's this gray panel right here. If you're in Maya 2018, you're going to actually have to look and make sure you are between 0 and 1. See that 1 there? And then 0 is there. Same thing on the up. We have a 1 and 0. So you need to be in the 0 to 1 space for this to make sense if you're going into Unreal or Unity or any of those. So let's arrange this. I'm going to select everything, and we'll see what Maya does. If we select it all and go to Layout, Maya will try to lay it out this way, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So instead of doing it that way, I'm going to do it manually. I know that the character that people are going to, when people play the game, they're going to get most familiar with who the character is. And for that, we usually use the face. So I'm going to move the torso out of the way. I'm going to put the face right here on the UV shell. And this is going to be typically the biggest object or UV shell that we'll have here, because it's going to take up the most texture space. The next part that people are going to see the most will be the torso. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that, and I will hit R to scale this down. Oops. Now we do want a pretty even distribution across all the UV shells, but you also want to distribute UVs in a manner that makes sense for the player. You want to make sure you have enough of a gap. That way you don't have any color bleed. Next. I'm going to take the legs. I'm going to put them right here. This one. That is this leg. So I'm going to put it on this side. And this one, I'm going to line up on that side. Select them both, and I'm going to shrink them both at the same time, that way they're even. Good enough. And now I'll do the arms. Which arm is which? This is the character's left arm, so I'll go ahead and put this, I'll put it on top here. And then the character's right arm. I'll arrange that as well. You can see both of these are slightly different sizes. So what I'm going to do is take this one, I'm going to place it right on top of the other one. Shrink it down so that it's about the same size. Close enough. And there we have our characters' UVs already cut and ready to go. In the next tutorial, we're going to look at how to texture the character and bring this all into Photoshop. All right, so stay tuned and I will see you next time.